The role of a rival in a romantic relationship can be valuable in the goal of creating a relationship in which both people meet as many needs as possible and in which both people value the relationship highly and out of that respect it, and inducing consciousness of the value of the relationship. Competition, from the Latin to compete, to draw out the best of one's partner, has a place to play. And what I've noticed in my own relationship with what is now my wife is that from a visionary perspective, there were a number of opportunities that I saw her overlooking, whether it was the opportunity to develop skills or build muscle in this and that area. And I found myself becoming a nag. Why didn't you think about this? Why not develop in this area? Why not think more before acting here? Why not, use your opportunity to build resources here? And it did not connect. It did not connect with a visionary part in her that said, yes, let's do that, for visionary reasons. And if I persisted, not only did I feel like I was, becoming more of a bully or a parent, but if I pushed hard, I would see her doing certain things out of fear. Just, I don't want you to be mad at me, going into the little girl, as opposed to, thanks, it's a great nudge, I want to take this opportunity. Now, I didn't like being a bully. I didn't like being a nag. I didn't like feeling passive and just watching growth stagnate in areas. I wanted to be a good friend, a good ally. I wanted the relationship to grow. And so this is when I would bring in the possibility of spending time with or connecting with another woman. It's very easy for me to be attracted to multiple women. It's, I think, relatively well established as a fact based on my own data and people I've spoken with, that while it's relatively easy to find exceptional qualities in this area or this area or this area in a given person, it's almost impossible. I've never found this perfect cohesion of all these different traits and skills and stuff in one person. If I look at the 100 women or so that I've spent time with romantically, I can point to the most transcendent sex and altered state, and the deepest tantric work with one partner, the most humor with another, the greatest culinary experiences with another, the greatest physical lover with another, the most empathy, the most compatible companion, the most beautiful. They're all different people. The person that makes the most magnificent gifts and art, the person that is most practical, the person who's incredibly supportive of anything, the person who's most passionate and possessive, they're all different people. And so as one broadens relationship context, there are, well, the dynamics can become more specialized in a way that is satisfying, just like, the pleasure of working with a fine goldsmith, a fine jeweler that does nothing but jewelry for 10, 20 years is, hundreds and hundreds of percent more satisfying in its excellence than someone that's, just does a little bit of jewelry, a little bit of carpentry, a little bit of all things. So, recently, I found myself not being met in terms of it, let's go for a hike, let's go for a walk. I really want someone to talk to about this issue, etc. And our relationship is relatively insular, in part because we both enjoy depth and intensity, and so you just don't have enough room to have deep, intense relationships with more than at most 3 people, of any kind, friendship or other. Depth and intensity requires a lot of time, but also a sensitivity for Jen's jealousy is the other reason, and so it's a balance point. But the introduction of a rival, for example, yesterday I wanted to be supported and heard. I wanted to go for a walk with my wife. She was comatose and didn't want to get out of bed. And, nothing wrong with that in and of itself, but realizing that the reason I didn't have someone to go with was that I hadn't cultivated relationships with people, that wanted to connect, partly because it isn't often necessary and partly because of Jen's jealousy. That, opened up a conversation to where, that it was actually quite upsetting. And, for me, it was the feeling of helplessness. And helplessness ties into traumas. For me, it's early childhood abandonment traumas. So when I feel abandoned, number 1, number 2, when I feel helpless, number 3, when I feel that, it's a very difficult feeling to feel helpless. So when that feeling is being induced, by a partner's apathy, it hurts. I feel pain. I feel anger. I want to withdraw. None of those hurting my partner, punishing her, withdrawing, none of those seemed ideal. And yet it's just a reality that, when there's a strong need for support to talk and, explore, and your partner is apathetic for whatever reason, busyness, exhaustion, whatever, it's a difficult crisis because there's a little child in there that's saying, nobody loves me because nobody is there. And so I pivoted that around to, okay, we can't have it every which way. But I'm not okay with just waiting passively for these periodic occurrences when you just don't want to show up. And I really need a partner. I need support. I need a partner. You could easily do it if you wanted to, but I don't like this feeling that it's not so. It's because it's my issue that needs support right now. It's not a priority. And so all that, bottled up. And so I just said, we need a deal here. You sleep, do whatever you want to do there. And I'm going to build some outside resources to share these feelings with. And yes, there will probably be romantic feelings because that just happens a good 40% of the time. If someone is sensitive, kind, and responsive to needs that you're not meeting, it is empathy and emotionality that leads to a sense of safety and security, that leads to a sense of affection, That leads to a sense of attraction. So there's a package here. When I get close to someone who's showing up, there will be sexual, sensual, warm feelings if it's a good fit. It's probably going to be a woman in this culture simply because our men are so sociopathic in response to a culture that is sociopathic, that actually attacks the sensitivity and affection in men. And because I'm not gay, I find it uncomfortable to lead a gay man on. Many gay men have been attracted to me, and I don't like that feeling that, they're never going to get the sex that they want. But I'm using them in a way that's nurturing and affectionate. So that, anyway, I got through that experience what it's like to be a woman, not wanting to have someone wanting her sexually when she didn't, want that to be about the relationship. That's how I feel around gay men. And so it's probably going to be a woman, because most heterosexuals in America are not comfortable with tenderness, with kindness, with warmth, with depth of emotion, unfortunately. And if it's a woman, there's probably going to be sexual feelings. Now, we don't have to act on that. But Jen doesn't particularly like me having sexual feelings, with a woman. And so we've had that conversation. I met a woman yesterday on my way back from my walk. I went on my walk alone, went and walked downtown, enjoyed looking at some art stores, met a lovely multiracial woman who has a Filipino mother, which I think contributed to her warmth. We had a great conversation and talked about, her degree and possibly her helping me in the documentary. And so, again, this morning I wanted to go for a walk with my wife, and Jen's tired, and so I said I would meet with this woman again, and I was having sexual feelings with her because, it's nice to have this sense of abundant warmth with people. And I'm totally against hiding things. And so I was I asked Jen if she wanted to meet the woman. I told her I was having some sexual feelings, that I would meet her again. And what pivoted around was that of her own accord, Jen wanted to join me for the walk, and no, she didn't want to meet that woman. And so Jen showed up and met the need. She has a choice to either show up and be there in a way that's fulfilling, or to, relax some of her jealousy to support me in meeting and connecting with people. With no secrets. I already told the woman yesterday about my wife. And, not needing to have intercourse, but, affection. It's really nice to be having, a tenderness with kind and intelligent and present people. So, what I see around this, it's a conflicting thing. I don't like the feeling of manipulating my wife, because there's an element of awareness that, my wife wouldn't have jumped out of bed to join me for the walk if a rival hadn't been in the wings. Now, our marriage deepened. We got back from that walk. Jen's skills are deepening in different areas. Sharing experiences are deepening. I loved having her there. She's the favorite woman I'd always like to spend time with. But she wouldn't have been there without the rival or the rivalry. Just me meeting a new person once casually in a shop it's enough to to create a little bit of extra oomph. So my view is that that's positive. I also think it's important to keep it all above board. Like I've had this whole conversation with Jen, including the fact that, I have mixed feelings. I don't want to be left in the lurch. I don't want to feel induced into helplessness. I don't want to feel a sense of being trapped. I don't want Jen to feel like she has to get out of bed if she doesn't want to. I don't want her to feel like she's going to be punished if if she's not there when I need someone. I don't want her to feel like she's going to be dumped if I go and meet needs with someone else. And so how do we come to that point where there's freedom, where there's accountability, et cetera, et cetera? And this has happened a few times in our relationship. And my feeling is that it's a healthy dynamic. Meaning if I'm ever feeling dissatisfied, or for that matter, if Jen is, if anyone in the relationship is feeling dissatisfied, rather than becoming self-neglecting or, covertly hostile in the relationship and, pouting and punishing and all that, I think it's healthier to provide a choice. I'm going to have an abundance of love and connection and support in my life, and I'm going to provide that abundantly for those I'm in relationship with. You can have first dibs on that. As much as you want, I'm there for you. But if I have needs or other people have needs that you're not claiming, then I don't want those resources, mental, emotional, physical resources, to go to waste or be unmet simply because, of some archaic, arbitrary sense that it's bad to care about more than one person. I've had a year in which I had multiple lovers. I've never cheated or lied to a partner once on either side. I mean, everyone's got to know what's going on and why, and have a clear container and clear expectations. There's pros and cons to all of it. I'm much happier in a deeply monogamous relationship when everyone's needs are being met. And I'm very happy, obviously. I've only been married once, and Jen is a fabulous fit for that. But, I don't have an objective judgment against what's called polyamory. I just have an awareness that when you go really deep emotionally, that everyone has very tender places of deep need and deep insecurity where they won't go into those places of the psyche unless there is a partner that will put them first, absolutely. It's kind of like climbing Mount Everest. You don't want a Sherpa or a guide, who is going to be there part-time. You don't want someone who's taking a few hours off and going to be out of cell phone range right when your rope begins to snap or a storm blows in. You want someone who is absolutely there. If you don't have that, you don't go to Mount Everest. If you don't have that, you don't go into those deep terrains in the psyche. Those deep terrains are the most valuable. And so I think one of the most useful roles of a rival, or, the healthy aspect of competition, is to bring a little awareness to those depths. Because if you're in those types of terrains, but not honoring the depths and needs of the relationship, then a rival will, wake up like, wow, no relationship lasts forever. Death or many other reasons will end every relationship. And so no relationship lasts forever. And so it's valuable. It shouldn't be taken for granted just because it's so familiar. And so I'm settling on the fact that both people having options, and I think it's good. I think it's good for both people to be aware that at any given point, the partner can meet needs in a variety of ways with other people, and that you can meet needs in a variety of ways of other people, and that the real honor of a deep monogamous relationship is the fact that you can go deeper than you can with anyone else. And you're just not going to go into those depths with casual engagements. So if you want a rich, growing life, I think there's a lot to be said for monogamy. And at the same time, if you want to really honor the moment-to-moment preciousness of that relationship, it's healthy to, I don't know, about a third of the time over the course of a long relationship, whether that's, every 3 days or, every 3 months or something, to have some activity, some opportunity for one or both people to have enjoyable experiences outside the marriage.